our pre-concert talk demonstration, and in which we hope that this will give you some insights to the music you're going to be hearing later. We're not going to play everything in this. We're just going to give you little tidbits here and there. I think Matt wants to say something about the format of the program before we get into some demonstrations.
Welcome, everyone. This is a pretty special concert for all of us. I've been playing in Quintet of the Americas with Barbara for over 40 years. And our newcomers and our guests are wonderful. We're so fortunate to be in this great city. But what I wanted to talk to you about is the concept and the idea of resilience and bouncing back. I've been through some things personally. I think one of our guests here, a composer, the wife of a composer has. We've lost people during this time. But we come together in music to kind of celebrate life. And that resilience plays a great role in overcoming. Whether it's quickly, or I found a definition on the dictionary that said resilience means you recover quickly. Well, not always, but it's a process. And I think that this program really expresses that very, very well, including dealing with loss. So the very first piece on the program is by an American immigrant. The immigrant population in New York City and all over this country had contributed greatly to our culture. Without them, we would not be the great country we are. Jose Bernardo came from Cuba, escaping the oncoming regime, and came to New York City with his partner and taught at Columbia. He was an architect, but he also wrote beautiful music. And I was sitting in a restaurant overhearing a conversation that I knew I had to get involved in. I turned around and introduced myself. And the short story is that Jose ended up writing a piece for us. His passion for music was unbounded, and his love for people, the same. So we're going to be opening the program with his piece. He passed in the late 80s, and it was a great loss. But his piece speaks to us still. And he took the time to write a couple of things in the music that I think are an example of who he was. His very opening comment is very free, almost with no bars, as if each player is searching for the other. And he continues with gently finding each other, and all kinds of indications on a personal level that were not typical of the pieces we often play. Because as an immigrant, he was reaching out to people. So we're opening the program with that. We have some composers with us today who will speak about their music, and we're so fortunate to have that. But one composer the quintet was very close to was James Comey. We recorded his music on his record label. We met Eileen and Jim many years ago. I remember being on a train together coming from someplace that we had been. And Jim was a very, very skilled, understated in some ways, composer. We played a concert upstate the last time I played with the quintet, and Jim was there, and we played one of his pieces. And I remember a friend of mine helping him down some steps. Little did I know that this would be one of the last times I would see him, if not the last. He passed. Eileen, we were very grateful that you're here, and that his music is here especially. So we'll be talking about the program, but I wanted to get this part in here because resilience plays a major role in all our lives, and I think art and music contribute to that sense of growth and rebounding. And we're on the rebound now, folks, all of us. We've all been through it. I'm going to turn the program back over to Barb.
Oh. We have another composer here tonight, Alan Schultz. He's in the back here. You're going to hear a lot more about his piece later, but I don't want to go past the beginning of this pre-concert talk not to mention his work. So there are notes in the program, and he'll be talking about it later. But it's talk about resilience, talk about the strength. I think it's something that a lot of musicians have, that we just don't give up. We just keep trying. We just keep at it. We suffer so many failures at, trying to play something well or trying to get a gig and we don't get it, like actors. But we just keep at it. We just never quit. And I think that's part of this whole feeling of the program tonight. I'd like to talk a little bit, just a very little bit, about Rockaway Baby by Leova. He's not here yet, but he will be here later. And I just wanted to maybe demonstrate, we can demonstrate just a few things about this work. I'm going to talk much more about it when you're in the regular program. But one of the interesting things he does is have people stretch notes within a pulse or play at different times following each other. So it creates this very dreamlike atmosphere. And we're going to first demonstrate the beginning, where Matt starts and Kim sort of follows him. And this is a big a big characteristic of Leova's work, where everybody isn't always right together. Even more of that a little farther into the work. It's actually in the second movement that we're going to demonstrate a little bit of the opening right now. This movement is called Blue Heaven, and it was a result of an interview that Leova did with a woman who was at the Peninsula Rehab Center in Rockaway. In this, you can just feel like she's really imagining heaven, she's imagining the blue sky, and she kept talking about that with Leova. And listen how he manages to create this sort of very dreamlike atmosphere. Something for you to be able to listen to in that movement. You won't fail to recognize the style of the third movement, so that'll be a surprise for you when you get there. But you'll know what it's all about. So we have the composer here for the next piece that's going to be on the program. That's Gilbert Galindo. And Gil, if you would like to come up, we're going to start by just demonstrating some of the other instruments that are involved in the quintet, the extensions, and then a few examples of that, and then we'll have Gil talk about various movements. So I'm turning it over to David.
Hi everybody, my name is David. As you can see, I have a very different instrument here with me today. If I compare it to my usual soprano clarinet, you can see it's quite large, and it's called the bass clarinet. I love the bass clarinet because like its name says, it plays very bass, low notes. And Gil uses it in a very interesting way in this piece. Just at the beginning, you can hear how the bass clarinet is interrupting the other instruments as they have solos. And it kind of does it in a very aggressive and persistent way. So you'll hear a lot of things like this happening in the first movement. Things like that kind of come out of nowhere and really come out of the texture. Later on, you will also hear the low register of the instrument being featured in a more melodic way. For example, I will play a quick excerpt from the last movement. You hear it kind of come out of the texture in this way. In this kind of mystical, very eerie, low register. And I love that about the bass clarinet. Speaking about bass instruments, we also have another extension of the woodwind quintet.
English horn, or cor anglais, the Anglo horn. What I'd like to mention too is that we played 3 concerts of the concert you're about to hear at senior centers in Queens. Part of our mission is to reach into communities, especially in Queens, with immigrants from all over the world. So we were at 3 senior centers and playing some challenging music, I think, for some of them to hear, but by bringing them into the process of understanding these instruments and hearing them demonstrate and us talking about the compositions, they've really enjoyed it. And I think we learned as much as they did about communication. And there's resilience connected to connection with other people. So when we're in the audience, or you're in the audience and we're up here, that connection is what being human is about. So I'm going to play just a couple of things. That the opening of the very piece that Gil wrote, it's so beautiful. And opening with the English horn, I know that if I get asked to bring an English horn to a gig, there's a solo. So I have to be prepared, because you just don't bring it along. Probably similar for bass clarinet and piccolo too. You can't help but hear the piccolo. Okay, so the piece opens with kind of like a calling and a reckoning coming up. It's quite a great, beautiful way, attention getting to start the piece.
Kim, the piccolo.
Okay. All right, my name is Kim. I'm playing flute today and piccolo, so I'm going to show you a little bit about the piccolo, so you can see the difference in size. Flute is typically made out of silver or gold, sometimes platinum. Older versions of the flute, and still around today, there are some that are made out of wood, but most of the time in a classical music setting, you will see typically silver or gold. You notice the piccolo is made out of wood. There are some silver and gold piccolos, but most of the time you will see it made out of wood, which is much different than the flute. So it is tiny, but it is very mighty. So it is the opposite of the lower instruments that we were just listening to. So piccolo is an octave higher than the flute. You typically only see one in an orchestra because it's so loud at times and very, very piercing. You typically don't really need more than one. So Gil uses the piccolo in a lot of very interesting ways throughout this piece. So Matt just played this very beautiful opening, and you are going to hear an interruption when we do play this, partially from David on the bass clarinet, but also with the other instruments and piccolo kind of like blasting through. So you will hear that. I was just talking with some audience members about wearing earplugs. I very often wear earplugs when I'm practicing piccolo, basically every day when I practice piccolo to protect my hearing. Anything above a certain note I have to be extra careful with. So I'm not wearing them today, but be mindful, my friends in the front, it can get a little bit loud. So to hear a little bit of what piccolo sounds like. So I'm not going to do too much because it can be pretty powerful, but you'll hear some really cool lines. So later, I don't know if we'll have a chance to show, but there's some very total opposite with piccolo. Some more lyrical things where I'm playing with bassoon, and it's actually very, very beautiful combination where it's not as harsh on the piccolo. So Gil shows a very, very large range of what the piccolo can do, which is very cool.
So Gil, why don't you join us up here and talk about the movements.
Well, yeah. Hello, Gilbert Galindo. Thank you guys for being here. Very nice to see people in a concert setting. I think we've all longed for this for a while, imagined it, and was sad that we couldn't participate at times. So I'm very happy that this is coming to fruition, and that I'm here with the Quintet of Americas. I just wanted to share just a little bit about how I approach music philosophically, which then can be applied to understanding the piece and understanding the sounds that are coming out. So it's a little bit of an excerpt from my artistic statement. Great art and music is entertainment and an experience and transcendent all in one. It intrigues the mind, moves the body, and touches the soul to uplift the human spirit. Some say entertainment is cheap, others say intellectualizing takes away joy. And some say music should exist in the purity of its sound without need for extra musical concepts or accompaniment. But I believe it is all connected, and that the right balance of its effect on the mind, body, and soul must be achieved, so that we may have a full human experience of art, or in this case, music. Great art and music make us feel alive and give us a glimpse of heaven, or whatever one's belief is about ultimate love. Realizing this and believing in this, I set to make this my goal in music, to write great music that uplifts the souls of many and the spirits of many. So this is the way I like to approach music. And after years of thinking, about what is it, why am I writing music? And so I finally found something that I wanted to share. And the title, Voices of the Unseen. So, talking about extra musical concepts, I envision myself in the Chihuahua Desert in southern New Mexico, or maybe in West Texas where I'm from, at night, and maybe I'm having a meditative session, or I'm just out there on my own, and somehow I'm conjuring voices in the air, spirits, or whatever, I'm not sure. Also around the time that I was writing this, I was watching a lot of Ghost Adventures. So probably that was in there. So the first movement is called Winding Spirits. Is that the right one? Winding Voices, okay. Voices, Spirits, almost the same thing. And you have these winding melodies. And so, which Matt demonstrated on the English horn, you had one of those winding melodies. But also, let me just get the score out here. I just want to just give you a little bit of a taste of another winding melody in the first movement. We could have the flute where they enter. Yeah,
14.
Yeah, 14, exactly. So basically the concept of the first movement is winding voices, winding melodies with interruptions that you heard from the bass clarinet on these hits. And then the second voice that comes in at measure 14, if you want to finish.
Sure.
Yeah. And then there's a third one, which maybe if you guys want to catch me after the concert, you'll tell me that you heard it. So I'm listening for it. And the second one is Dance of the Spirits. So now the spirits are conjured up, and now they're having a nice little, good time. And you have the very rhythmic type of pan flute-like melody that's in fourths. And so if you could have the flute and oboe. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Measure 6 and play like 3 measures of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or 6, right?
So yeah, this is basically what's going on. And then we have a responding tune that for some reason reminded me of some kind of 80s ballad that never existed, or maybe existed, I'm not sure. Sometimes I write melodies that I don't know if they existed, and they sound like they existed forever. So excuse me if I copy somebody, I'm not sure. So yeah, and there's a bunch of insistent rhythms throughout that movement. So you'll be hearing tunes and rhythms. Third one is Sacred Hemp. And now that we kind of stilled and came to our center, where now we can just, I don't know how, for me it's prayer. How you could just pray in its purity. And so you have like a hollowed still sanctuary, and then I wanted to toy around with the concept of making it sound like we have the organ playing. So if we could just hear the, let's take it from 8, 9, measure 9 to 15. So in the third movement. Basically the first part of it, and then we come more alive in the music in the second half of the hymn, kind of like our human response to meditation or prayer. And the fourth movement was just basically, for me, an organic response to that movement, which happened to be a chant-like melody that I wrote in high school. So, but I'll save that for the performance and see if you guys can, identify that when you listen to it. And in the fifth movement, we have all these ideas and these melodies and tunes coalesce in the fifth movement. I bring back the hit motive that you will hear in the bass clarinet. Actually, yeah, the bass, is it bass clarinet? Okay, bass clarinet. I sometimes don't know my own music sometimes. Horn and bassoon. If you would play just the first three bars of the fifth movement. Yeah. Great. Yeah, excellent. So you have that kind of hit coming in from the first movement, and then we have just a quick succession of different emotions and different sections and ideas, and then changing tempos, changing tunes, a chorale-like gesture as well that goes back to the hymn movement, and then for the ending part of it, the hits come back again, and then you have that English horn solo as well to end it. So the English horn began and kind of ended the piece, but everybody kind of ends the piece because everybody's in a chorale at the end. So that's basically what you can listen for in the piece and where it comes from extra musically. So hope you enjoy it, and thank you for listening, and thank you guys for playing it.
So, thank you for coming to our pre-concert, where you get some insights into what's coming up. And we'll see you back at 7.